So, in the last class, we have discussed about the definition of microbiology and some importance and relevance of subject microbiology to the profession nursing. Why nursing officers needs to learn the subject microbiology we have discussed. So, let us continue the subject microbiology. So, microbiology is the systematic and scientific study of microorganisms. So, which are all these microorganisms we are interested in? So, medical microbiology. So, there are many branches of microbiology you have seen in the last class. So, what we are going to study in detail here is medical microbiology. So, medical microbiology deals with the microorganisms such as algae, bacteria, fungi. In fungi, there are two forms, yeast and molds. So, then protozoa and viruses. So, next, let us discuss the characteristics of microorganisms. So, microbiology we are studying here. There are some characteristics of microorganisms algae, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and viruses. They have some characters in common. So, let us discuss them here. They are very small in size, less than zero point 0.1 millimeter, means you cannot see them with your naked eyes. You need a microscope to see the organisms. Microorganisms are single cellular or multicellular, and they are prokaryotes or eukaryotic cells. So, microorganisms might be a prokaryotic cells, means primitive nuclei will be there or there will be no nuclei. Eukaryotic cells means they have a well defined nucleus in their body, cell body. So they are called as eukaryotic. These microorganisms might be prokaryotic or eukaryotic. And again, they are motile or non motile. So they can move from one place to other place, or they are non-motile, means they cannot move from one place to other place. These are some of the characteristics of microorganisms. So algae, bacteria, fungi, protozoa and viruses, these are the microorganisms we are going to study in detail in microbiology. So these are some of the characteristics in common for all these microorganisms. So microorganisms, they are present everywhere in nature, on our body, inside our stomach, on skin, or on the table, or on road, or plants, animals, air, water, food. Everywhere they are present. Microorganisms, you find them everywhere, and their size is very small. Their size is less than zero point 0.1 millimeter. So you cannot see them by naked eyes. You need a microscope to see them. And then microbiology, in that we are going to study in detail about microorganisms. So what all things we are going to study about microorganisms? Let us see. So the structure of the microorganism we are going to study different bacteria, virus, protozoa, there are fungi, so algae. So we are going to study their structures, their classification and distribution, how they are distributed in an environment, and their reproduction, type of production, reproduction, how they multiply, that we are going to discuss. How is the metabolism, what they eat, how they metabolize, how they synthesize their food, all that we are going to discuss. And then their influence of these group of microorganisms on plants, animals and human beings. So especially in the medical microbiology, we are interested to study the influence of these all groups of microorganisms on human beings and animals also. For a practical purpose, they study the influence of these microorganisms on animals and they generalize it to human beings. So main thing what we are interested in microbiology is a study of bacteria, virus, protozoa, fungi, algae, all these, how they are affecting the health condition of human beings. That is our interest in microbiology. Next, let us see another slide here. Microbiology is a science which studies microscopic forms of life. So that is microorganisms. We have seen bacteria, virus, algae, fungi. So the systematic study of all those microorganisms and their influence on the health condition of the human beings we are going to study. So where all you find these microorganisms? I told you air, water, soil, plants, animals and human beings on the body and inside the body of human beings. They are present everywhere. So next let us discuss in brief about a protozoa. So protozoa is a unicellular eukaryotic organism. Unicellular means single cellular. Eukaryotic means there is a well defined true nucleus at the center of the cell. Single cellular and is having a true nuclei. And next characteristic here it is parasitic and saprophytic means protozoa may depend on the host cell for its food, or it may depend on the dead and decaying materials. Sapro means dead and decaying materials. So protozoa, it might be a parasitic depending on the host cell, or it may depend on a dead and decaying material, that is saprophytic. And the size is from 10 to 50 millimicron, and then it lives in a aqueous environment, liquid environment. And protozoa can move from one place to other place with the help of flagella or cilia or pseudopodia. So protozoa may have flagella, cilia or pseudopodia. So with the help of flagella, cilia and pseudopodia, the protozoa can move from one place to other place. And the mode of feeding, that is protozoa, it absorbs the food by cell membrane. It is called as phagocytosis. It can swallow from any part of its body, means it is a unicellular, and it will engulf the food materials, means it absorbs the food by cell membrane, that is known as phagocytosis. And next is some of the protozoa, they are parasitic and they are pathogenic. So pathogenic means they have a ability to cause a disease. Some are parasitic and some are pathogenic. And then they reproduce by sexual manner and even asexually also. There will be a binary fission of a single cellular protozoa and it will form a new protozoa. So that is asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction means male and female, they meet together and they form a new offsprings, that is sexual. So here protozoa can reproduce both with sexual manner and even asexually. So examples here, they are paramecium protozoa. We have discussed protozoa. So examples for protozoa, they are amoeba, paramecium and euglena. So next let us discuss about algae. So algae, they are also eukaryotic, unicellular or multicellular. So algae may be seen in a single cell or it may be seen in a chain of multi cells, means many cells. So it may have a eukaryotic cell, means it is having a nucleus at the center, eukaryotic it is. And the size of the algae, it ranges from 1 mm to several mm. And then it is a autotrophic in nature. Algae is autotrophic in nature, means it is having a chlorophyll and it can synthesize its own food. It can synthesize its own food by photosynthesis. Autotrophic. Auto means self, trophic means synthesizing the food. Autotrophic in nature, it depends on its own self. It is not parasitic, it is not saprophytic, It is autotrophic. Next is it is algae may be a motile or non-motile. So it may move from one place to other place, or it may not be moving. It may stick on to one place, and it may reproduce by sexually and even by asexually also. It may be seen in a moist soil or in a aquatic region, means in a tank or a ponds or in a moist place. You can see that algae, green algae everywhere spreading. So examples are chlorophyta, robophyta, and pharophyta and cyanophyta. So next let us discuss about the fungus. So fungus is another microorganism which is having a nucleus at the center. That is why it is called as eukaryotic. Eukaryotic. Eu means true. Karyo means nucleus. So the fungus is having a true nucleus at the center. And fungus is autotrophic. Again, it is same like algae. It may synthesize its own food, or it may depend on others. Heterotypic. So next is unicellular. Unicellular means single cellular. It is called as yeast. I told you in the beginning, fungus there are of two types. One is yeast and another one is mold. So unicellular fungus is known as yeast, and multicellular fungus is known as molds. So it may be seen in a unicellular or multicellular form. So unicellular is called as yeast and multicellular is called as molds, and it may depend on a dead and decaying materials, that is called as saprophytic. Fungus may be saprophytic or parasitic. It may depend on a host cell. So fungus may depend on host cell for its feeding, or it may synthesize its own. It may depend on a dead and decaying materials, that is called as saprophytic. So the fungus is saprophytic or parasitic. And next is uh, fungus may be septate or non-septate. So or it may lead to mycelium. Septate means there will be a separate compartments. So septas are will be there, or it may be in a single mycelium like a non-septal form. So next is spores of fungus. They are seen in a moist places, air, soil, and even in a dust. You find the spores of fungus in moist places, moist and wet places, and even in a air they will be traveling, and even in a soil, and even in a dust you find the spores of fungus. Examples here they are aspergillus. So you can see fungus when you keep the bread for a long time, you can see that no yeast will be there. So they use this fungus in synthesis of alcohol and wine and all. So these are the microorganisms called as fungus. So next let us discuss about the bacteria. So bacteria they are very large in number, and they cause most of the diseases. Let us discuss in brief about bacteria. Bacteria are a prokaryotic cells, means they don't have a well defined nucleus. They very primitive cellular structure. It is a unicellular single cell bacteria it is, and size ranges from 1 to 2 millimicrons, and the shape of bacteria may be cocci, round shaped, rod shaped, or in a spiral form, cocci, rod, or spiral shape. So bacteria may have a round shape or a rod shape or a spiral shape. And then bacteria may be motile or non-motile, and then they have a well defined cell wall. So that helps in making a classification of bacteria into gram positive and gram negative. So based on the type of a cell wall the bacteria is having, They are categorized into gram positive and gram negative. All the details will be dealt later. And then next is autotrophic and heterotrophic. Means the bacteria can synthesize its own food by its own, or it may depend on others. And then next is some of them are pathogenic in nature, means they lead to a infection. That infection leads to a disease. So most of the diseases are caused by bacteria. So next example for bacteria, they are staphylococcus, escherichia coli, streptococcus. These are the examples of bacteria. So next type of microorganism, here it is viruses. So viruses, already you all know corona is a virus. So corona, it is a new virus which is troubling the life of human beings everywhere in the world. A small invisible virus, even it is not having any features of life, just it is a nucleic material that is surrounded by protein material that is troubling multicellular organisms all over the world. Human beings, most intelligent animal, man, is getting trouble from very small sized virus. All through the world, scientists are working hard to find the vaccine and drugs for viruses. Let us discuss about viruses now. So viruses, they are ultra microscopic in structure, means they are very small in size, even smaller than bacteria. A smaller and smaller bacteria is bigger than virus. So that viruses are ultra microscopic in structure. You need electronic microscopes to see viruses. So it is very small in size. So you need electron microscope to see the viruses. And then viruses are obligate intracellular parasites. What does it mean? Means viruses cannot survive outside the human cell. So they need a human or animal cell. So they enter inside the cells of humans or animals, and it starts multiplying in number. So it multiplies by entering inside the cell of a host. So it is called as obligate intracellular parasite. Obligate means compulsorily intracellular, inside the cell of a host. It is a parasite, it is dependent on host parasite. Okay, obligate intracellular parasite, it is virus is a. And then size of the virus, I told you already, it is very small, less than zero point 0.2 millimicron. So coronavirus is the biggest virus. Its size is around zero point 0.2 millimicrons. Not visible with the naked eyes, and even under the ordinary microscopes you need electronic microscope to visualize the viruses. And then genetic material, they contain genetic material and protein surrounded by, means there are DNA viruses, there are RNA viruses. So RNA and DNA, they are the nucleic materials, genetic material. So that genetic material gets surrounded by a protein material. That's it, nothing else. No Golgi body, no mitochondria, no ribosomes, no cell wall, nothing. Just genetic material, that is RNA or DNA, surrounded by a protein. That's it, nothing else. That small thing, not having any well organized cellular structure also, it is not having any well organized cellular structure, but it is troubling the human beings, so influencing it is. And the next is it lacks a cellular components. As I told you, it is not having any cellular components. It depends on host for multiplication. I told you, once it enters into the body, it enters into the cell, it starts multiplying by the use of host cells. And then genetic material, it is RNA or DNA. There are RNA viruses, DNA, there are DNA viruses. Viruses multiply in host cells. I told you that. So they enter into the host cell and they start multiplying. So example for viruses, they are herpes simplex virus and HIV virus, human immunodeficiency virus, that is HIV virus, and TME, tobacco mosaic virus. So these are the examples. You can take coronavirus also as an example. So these are all different types of viruses. There are many others. Let us discuss in detail later.